podcasts every Thursday on www.drdendoes.drdendoes.co.uk. Use our social media accounts and email to tell us your paranormal stories and your conspiracy theories. Right, good afternoon, guys, and welcome to the channel. Scarlett, Matt, good afternoon.
Hello.
Good afternoon,
nice
everyone.
to be back.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Good back to be. Yeah, it's good to be back.
It is indeed.
Yeah. So basically, this week we had the discussion, and we're going to talk about a program that is running on Amazon at the moment called Hellier. I'm going to give all listeners a basic background talk on it, and I'm taking it from the project site of the Hellier team, and it goes like this. In 2012, Greg Newark received an email from a man calling himself David Christie, who claimed that he and his family were being terrorized by unearthly creatures by night. After exchanging emails, David disappeared. For the next 5 years, the case only got stranger as more connections of mysterious emails came in. Then in 2017, Greg and a team of researchers travelled to rural Kentucky, not knowing what they would uncover or how deep they would discover the case might go. That was the premise of the 5-part season of Hellier, a paranormal documentary series and a true labour of love for all of the team involved. The first session was put together on a shoestring budget, and only the collection of a prosumer DSLR camera for the director Carl Pfeiffer and his friends could assemble. So in other words, they put this whole thing together on a cheap DSLR. That was basically... they never thought this was going to be anything other than a little one-off thing. And the team you've got Greg Newark, Dana Newark, they're a married couple. You've also got Carl Pfeiffer, who's the director. You've got Connor Randall, who is a producer. And you've got Tyler Strand. It says on camera personality. The guy's a head case, as far as I'm concerned. Having watched his own channel, he's completely out there. And then you've got the unsung hero of all of this, which is Richard Sesmore, who's the camera operator. So that's the basic outline. I recommend that listeners go and have a look at the Hellier website. Go and have a look at the team. They got some really interesting stuff on their website as well. So, Scarlett.
Yeah, I actually watched it on YouTube, so it is available on YouTube.
Oh, it's available on YouTube as well. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so what did you think, Scarlett?
I don't want to be the party pooper, but I wasn't that overly impressed or blown away with the first series. Okay. I mean, aesthetically, it looks brilliant, and learning that it was made in a DSLR is just, it looks fantastic. And there are some creepy bits, but for me, it didn't have much direction. Not that much actually happened that blew me away, so I was a bit disappointed. However, the second series is much more interesting, but I think we'll discuss that a bit later on.
It livened up a bit, didn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, Matt, what did you think?
Well, I myself, just like Scarlett, also watched it over on YouTube, so the full thing was still there, which was awesome. Currently, I've only seen the first series so far, so I'm going to get around to watching season 2. But I enjoyed it. Like Scarlett said, it wasn't, all that, on edge and whatnot, but I think the whole thing was just really, really interesting how he kept getting these emails through and eventually, got interested enough to go out there and investigate for themselves. It is a really good watch. Well, season 1 anyway. Don't know about season 2 yet.
Yeah. Season 2 is, I think, the better one of the 15 programs. So you've got 5 programs for season 1 and 10 programs for season 2. I did hear a little whisper that there's going to be a Hellier 3.
There has to be, because of all the stuff that they've sort of. I do give them credit. They didn't really know what they were doing or what they were getting into, and they didn't have a direction. So I do get that, and I understand it. But there was just some bits that were a bit questionable for me. So some of the methods they use to summon or speak to the paranormal world, I just found a bit questionable.
Okay, so I think we got to look at it from the point of view from the first series. These were a bunch of teenage ghost hunters. That's what they did. They had a laugh, made a few videos, had a laugh, done a bit of ghost hunting. That was it. It was never serious. And I think when they first started recording this series, they were still in that frame of mind. However, they were like all 10 years older. So it was a little bit, they put a little bit more thought behind it. And what as I understand it, the whole thing that set this off was this one email from this one guy, which was strange because it went to their old website address that he checked periodically. And they decided to look into it, which was interesting to say the least. There are lots of connections throughout the series, and we'll discuss those a little bit later on. But the first thing that came to my mind as a former UFO investigator was, if I got an email like that, the first thing I would say was aliens. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah. So the content of this email was about goblins, wasn't it? This man had written and said that he had these strange little creatures in his garden, and they were stealing his children's toys, and it's quite well known around the town. People had seen them, and so that's what initially attracted them to go to Hellier. Yeah.
The other thing that I think that they picked up on quite quickly was the Hopkinsville.
Right, I don't remember that bit.
Let me explain. The Hopkinsville, Kentucky UFO thing, I suppose, was that these guys lived in a shack house. You know what the South Americans are like for their wooden built houses. It looked like a shed to me, but it was their home. And they were living there with their families, children, 3 brothers, I think it was. And they were terrorised by these beings that they called goblins, and they drew pictures of them. And if you look at them, you know why they think they're goblins, but they were definitely aliens. They saw a UFO, etc., etc. Now, the first thing that came to mind was, Hopkinsville, Kentucky. This is the same thing. That's what came to my mind. However, when they tried to talk to this David guy and couldn't find him, the first thing that came to my mind after that was it the original guys or a UFO investigator who looked into this years ago and just wanted to refresh it and see if he could get anybody else to get onto it and make it new news. That was one of the things.
But it's strange because they're not UFO hunters, are they? They were like ghost hunters, weren't they? So
exactly.
Maybe he sent it out to a few people, who knows, and they just didn't really make much of it.
And they were the only ones that, went to investigate.
Yeah. I mean, it's... I put the UFO link straight away because of this goblin thing that they were talking about. And the funny thing was, about 6 months ago, I was going through my shelf and moving. I must have 150 A4 folders full of UFO sightings and stuff that I've collected over the years. And I was taking them out for storage I've got another shed that I store stuff like that. And I opened one of them, and Hopkinsville thing was right on top of it. This was about 6 months ago.
Oh.
And I thought, I forgot all about that. So I picked out the paperwork, had a look through, and sort of thought, yeah, that was an interesting one, and just put it back in the thing. So it was sort of fresh in my mind. And then when he said Kentucky, where this guy lived, I thought, it's got to be that. It's got to be the same group of aliens.
So tell me about these aliens then. So they're common, they've been sighted more than once and documented by more than one group of people.
Yep.
Do they have a backstory? Do they have a reason for being there? Are they even connected to the mines or?
No, as far as they're concerned, the original investigation, I think it was in 62 or 68. I can't remember. Let me just go. I've actually got some details on it now because I dug them out, especially for the show. Let's have a look. The drawings of the little goblins are really crazy.
They kind of look similar to the greys, the traditional greys.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That
but
people
the only
would
difference
draw.
is they got ears.
Yeah.
Pointy little ears, don't they?
Yeah.
Maybe they just forgot to tuck them in their suits.
One of the guys tried to shoot them. I can't find their date anywhere.
You know, when I first started watching it, what came to my mind is I thought it's probably aliens. Like, it didn't seem like sort of ghosts to me. Like, and the bit that really got me, and probably go into it later on, is that when they said that they come from the mines, you're like, well, as a ship or something crashed or visited, they'd want to go into hiding. So the mines would be the perfect place.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
But this is sort of what frustrated me about the series. It's like they didn't once go to a mine.
No.
And go.
True.
I mean, they did. They went into the entrance of an old tunnel.
Yeah.
They didn't go and into the mine. One of the best bits for me was when they got this cabin in the woods, and then they went in the woods behind it with a few torches. That bit was really gripping. They were hearing noises everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Really strange lights, sensations. But then they go home and go back to the cabin and then put on that spirit box thing. I just thought, it would have been way more interesting if you just camped out in the woods.
Yes.
Yeah, it would have.
For me, anyway.
And then again, the spirit bot things was quite interesting as well, because there was me who watches a lot of paranormal investigation videos. I haven't seen anything done quite like that. Well, because normally, like, they sit around like the spirit box and they have words coming through, but the guy that did it, he couldn't see or hear the others. Like, he was completely reading what he heard, and some of what he was saying correlated to what the rest of the team members were asking, which I thought was pretty interesting.
But my sort of
1955 was the Kentucky Goblins.
Oh, great. I've got a little
sighting.
tab open. I'm going to have a read of that after this podcast. And it's really funny how they had all these like stories, and they were asking the townspeople, but a lot of them didn't want to say too much.
No,
I think
found that a little bit weird.
But I think Americans get a very bad name in the press because if you've ever watched a documentary called Unacknowledged,
Yeah.
it's a brilliant documentary. It's on Netflix and it's about UFO sightings.
Yeah.
And there's this captain in it, and he says, how do you keep a secret? What's the best way? And he said, you hide it in plain sight.
Absolutely.
So he said there's hundreds of thousands of people that have witnessed UFO sightings or experienced alien encounters.
Yep.
But you never, on a news report or something, it will never be someone who's deemed educated or professional. It will be some sort of old man who lives out in a country.
Yep.
Totally isolated,
Yeah.
presented to be a little bit bonkers.
Yeah.
So it discredits his vision. And I think that's what a lot of people in the Hellier town thought. They didn't want to tell these New York reporters that they'd seen an alien or they'd seen a goblin because they didn't want to seem stupid.
No, there was only that one guy, wasn't there, that went up to them when they'd stopped interviewing people and pointed on a map where they should go.
Oh, yeah.
So he actually said, look, if you want to see these things, this is where they've been reported to come from. It was he said that he had a friend who had seen the three-toed footprints coming out of that cave. I don't know if you remember that bit.
Yeah, I do remember that.
So, that was interesting. There was at least one guy who decided that he would give a little bit of information. But I think, like you said, I think they were outsiders. I don't think the locals wanted people to come in and discuss it.
No.
They wanted this kept quiet. Because can you imagine? I don't know how many people have turned up in Hellier.
Well, that's what I was thinking when I was watching it.
Oh, yeah.
Even since then, there must be hundreds of people that are there trying to find something.
Yeah. Yeah, if I had a chance, I'd be over there tomorrow.
Me too. It really inspired me to do a tour of all these little towns. Because I actually went on Google Maps and looked at how many little towns there are. Because we only hear, in England, we only hear of the states.
Yeah,
of course we do. Yeah.
You don't hear about. I couldn't name you a little town in Kentucky, but I can now.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's hundreds of them.
Too. Yeah.
And it's really inspiring. And they do look really beautiful.
Yeah, it's the beauty of it out there is it's almost untouched. It's just little tiny bits.
Yeah. But so the only things I can really remember from the first series is the email, and then when they were in the cabin. So there's one scene, they're in the cabin, they've just been in the woods, they're feeling a bit like they felt something, there's a presence around them.
Yeah.
So they put in this spirit box, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the spirit box goes through all the radio frequencies.
Yeah.
And then you're supposed to hear key words.
Yes. So basically, the idea behind it is that this thing scans extremely quick through all radio frequencies, and it allows a spirit, be whatever it is, an alien somewhere or whatever, some sort of being spirit, to pull words out of it to make a sentence so they can communicate with us, because they have no other way of saying tin can. Yeah? So they can't say that. So what they do is they wait for that word to appear in one of the frequencies, and then they push it forward. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
And that's how it works, apparently. It scans through it, it sort of gives you the odd words, and what you do with those is you're meant to reply to the words or the sentence if there's a sentence. And they did that later on. They didn't do it initially. When they were sitting on the porch, I think they just listened for a little bit, and then one of them asked a question. And of course, she couldn't hear it. He couldn't hear it. Pfeiffer, he couldn't hear it because he had these sound cancelling headphones on. So he couldn't hear what they were saying.
Yeah.
So he was just pumping back the words. But the weird thing is, when they asked questions, the words that were coming out made sense.
Yeah, that was the bit that got me.
But the other thing that I found quite interesting was the way Connor kept coming out. And it was only later on, I think it was in series 2, the significance of Connor.
Yeah, and who
remember
that is.
that? And
who that is.
Yeah.
My only qualms with it sort of is like the validity, what's the word? How valid it is and how credible it is. Because for me, okay, he can't see or he can't hear, but he still has a brain. And I know how powerful the brain is, and the subconscious and the power of suggestion.
Yeah.
So although he can't hear and he can't see what the others are saying, he still knows what he's there for.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
still part of the investigation. And so I kind of feel it's a bit, you hear what you want to hear.
But he's only putting out the words that are coming through the box.
I get what you mean,
but
Scarlett.
he could. But it's like, you know, when they say, you know, if you play this Led Zeppelin song backwards, it says "Dancing with Satan" or something.
Yeah.
I mean, if you just heard that off the back, it would just sound like gobbledygook. When someone says it, that's now planted in your brain, and you can hear it.
Yeah. That's true.
Do you see what I mean? Like, he's got things planted in his brain already about why he's here, goblins, ghosts, his friend Connor who's there. I was just a bit, that for me wasn't, I don't know. Wasn't,
I get what you mean. Because, like, you see those YouTube videos and then they have, like, subtitles on the screen. And obviously you're hearing what the subtitles are saying through the spirit box. But with this, it's like you said, he's there for a reason. But I think what Den also said earlier is that he had no idea what they were saying, and he could hear or say any word coming out of the thing that he wanted. But the words that he was saying were, like, you know, very similar or linked to what the other people had said that he couldn't hear. Which was really odd.
That was my initial thought. When the second series goes in when it gets into the second series, they learn a lot more. Yeah. And think a lot of more things start to make sense. And then you think back to that spirit box experience they had, and you're like, wow. Yeah. Okay, maybe that was something.
Yes.
Like, Matt, you've really got to watch the second series.
We
have to talk about it because it's so significant.
Oh, yeah, you can talk about it, definitely.
Okay, cool.
So, tea break time. We're going to take a break for some coffee.
Contact us now on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Just search for Dr. Den or email us at drdenblack@gmail.com.
And the coffee break is over. Okay, so...
That's quick.
So, the second series is really relevant to the first series. I mean, there's just a couple of things I should bring up first. One is Indrid Cold. Whose name came out frequently, and Indigo Swan, his technique, which was the spirit box or the god helmet, should I say, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But Indigo Cold,
Indrid
Cold, sorry, he was the guy from the Mothman Mysteries. He was reportedly the alien that came down and gave advice. And I think all the way through Hellier, they had that impression that he wasn't quite Earth-like. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So he's part of like a folklore in America, isn't he? The Mothman.
Yeah.
Or the Smiling Man.
Yeah, the Smiling Man. The Mothman Mysteries are quite interesting. The Mothman Prophecies, which was a book, had nothing to do with prophecies apart from the fact that the Mothman apparently appeared on a bridge and it collapsed. You could say that about anything. Yeah. There is a video, apparently. I've seen it a couple of times, of a reported Mothman. The only problem with it is it doesn't have any wings.
It's a strange name. I don't quite know where that came from.
No, it was apparently when they the first case of it was they were driving a bunch of kids going out to an old mill somewhere, and this thing appeared in front of them, and as they slowed down they suddenly realised it was this human-shaped figure but with wings, and it took off and it tried to get to them inside the car. Excuse me. So that's where the Mothman came from, because when they interviewed him, they said, well, it looked like a moth, a giant moth, but it was a man. So there you go, you got Mothman.
That's fair enough.
And that's where that whole thing came from. But there's so many stories around it. But the link is Indrid Cold.
He's an alien.
Yeah.
Of some
he
sort.
was there during the Mothman when it first started. Mm-hmm. And he was also something to do with Hellier. That's what they thought.
Yeah.
He was entangled in all of this stuff that was going on.
But I think wider as well in Hellier, because he's been sighted in Point Pleasant, which they kept going back to as well.
Yes.
It's around that sort of area.
Yeah.
What I found most interesting in the second series, they look more into the area itself.
Yeah.
And they look wider than just Hellier. And there's so many stories that are all interconnected. But the most interesting thing I found, they went to this place called, where was it, Dan?
Oh, that was the where the police station was, and the copper told them some information. Yeah, I can't remember.
There's another place, I can't remember what it's called now, it's really bad of me, that it's really quite renowned for UFO sightings. They've got this whole paranormal museum. And they go and speak to the owner of it, and they stay with his friend. And the friend is he has all of this information about all this weird stuff that's happened in the area. Yeah. But one of the most interesting things he says is that Kentucky itself, the state, is basically falls on a ley line. And it falls on a ley line of where it has significant amount of electromagnetic energy underneath it.
That's right. It's the biggest part of EMF in the country.
I never knew that.
Yeah, I didn't either.
It's quite weird. I mean, these stories, if you listen to them, some of them were quite scary, especially when he started talking about the occult and people were involved.
Yeah.
You know, that sort of side of it.
That needs its whole sort of own show, because that was the bit that that came to me. That in the second series, there's this woman, and she gets in touch with. No, did they find her or?
This is the one who ends up in prison.
Yeah.
Yeah, she initially reaches out to them out of nowhere, and she told them that somebody called Doug had told her to contact Greg. And they had no idea who Doug was. No idea at all. And this woman had some experiences, and this guy called Doug said, look, you know, get out there and speak to this Greg guy. He'll be able to help, which is really bizarre.
Yeah.
Because now they're thinking that Doug, at that point, was Indrid Cold.
Yeah, again, another encounter.
Yeah, everything comes around the Indrid Cold guy.
Yeah, he's a really interesting character.
Yeah, I mean, he was a desert. No, he wasn't a desert rat. He was a tunnel rat during the Vietnam War, apparently.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. He said that while he was down there, he'd seen giant spiders and goblins in the tunnels in Vietnam. So that to me was a whole new can of worms that had opened up there. I mean, I'd heard that the American soldiers had come across some strange things while in Vietnam, but I hadn't heard those stories.
No. So Ingrid Cole, there's sort of two explanations of who he was.
Yeah.
Number one, he was just a normal guy who grew up there and did his, just sort of lived there and then performed his role in Vietnam. Then the other one is that he's like this sort of extraterrestrial being.
That's right.
Who disguises himself as a human. But for what purpose?
Exactly. It's never sorted out, is it?
No.
I think this might have more to do with the new series that they're working on. I think they might investigate that a little bit more.
Yeah.
I just sort of was reading somewhere and it said that the Hellier Series 3 was going to be more in depth over the first and second series. They're going to dig deeper into what they missed in those two series.
Well, I think they have a direction now, and they have an actual a point of interest. Goblins, I mean, that was the original direction. They didn't find any.
No.
So, I think they've uncovered that it's more than physical little beings, goblins, as you want to call them.
Yeah.
It's bigger than that. They might be a Sorry. That's not me.
That's the goblin dog.
The goblins, yeah.
Or is that the hand from hell?
But because what I found really interesting in the second series is so they get given these coordinate points.
Yeah.
And one of the guys they team up with this other paranormal investigator.
Yeah.
And he goes to the coordinates and there's nothing there. There's nothing really there at all.
Apart from a balloon.
Apart from a balloon, which is really freaky.
Yeah.
But
You're talking about Tyler Strand.
Yeah, Tyler Strand, that's the one. And he then started walking back to where he thought his car was, and he stumbles across this weird, another cabin in the woods with this couple come out. So he starts asking them some questions, and they are very reluctant to tell him anything. And then, like all of the town's sheriffs come and basically asking what he's doing, why is he walking around, why is he asking questions, who are you? So it seems like these little towns have a sort of unsaid rule about what is happening, and you don't speak to outsiders.
Yep.
And that's where the whole sort of underground cult thing comes in.
Absolutely.
The woman we
other
mentioned earlier. Oh, sorry, go on, Dan.
No, I was just going to say the other thing is while he was talking to those two people in the house, he noticed that there was a carving on a tree. Can you remember that?
Yeah, of the green man.
The green man, yeah.
Oh.
The green man keeps popping up all the time. There are lots of things that keep popping up all the time, which suggests to me that there is something going on, be it spiritually or otherwise.
Human.
There is something definitely going on there.
I think they need to, and it is way out of their depth. It's not their sort of profession, but
No.
there's definitely some weird stuff going on there because the woman who we mentioned before, who ended up in prison, reported that she heard screaming, like someone screaming bloody murder, coming from a tunnel, one of the mines. And that's what really scared her. And she started to do some more investigating. And it turns out that it's quite well known in the town or the wider state that there is some sort of weird sex cult. Like a lot of people have gone missing, never never solved.
Yeah, it's a bit like the 411.
But I looked that up because for me, I'm like, why are you still looking for goblins when that is going on? And there's sort of evidence, and there's a lot of people that you could speak to who could share some information. But I looked on Reddit actually, and Greg actually commented on it.
Right.
And said, there's a lot of stuff that we couldn't put in the documentary.
Right.
Because of legal reasons.
Yeah.
And also, the more you start that, that's way out of our depth. That's way out of our field. We're not criminal investigators. And actually, we were warned by numerous people. It's a dangerous route to be going down, to be looking down.
But if you can remember when they met up in that weird museum with that guy, he talked about that and said there was stuff going on, people dressed in black robes and in the forest and stuff, and people would disappear, and there was rumours of sacrifices, and God knows what else. So, it was just the whole thing. When you put it all together, it's a massive ball of dead ends.
Yeah.
There is no finalisation to any of the things they were investigating.
It is the literal sense of opening a can of worms, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. The whole thing, the whole programme is a can of worms. But like you say, Scarlett, they weren't prepared for it.
No.
It was, as Dana said a few times, this isn't in my wheelhouse. Yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
It's not her thing. However, what I did notice through the thing was when I was looking around their house when they were doing the filming, etc., it is blatantly obvious that she is a white witch.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's what I've been thinking as well.
Yeah.
She's open about it, though, isn't she? That she's part of the Wiccan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's a white witch, and some of the stuff she does, interesting. Talking about fairies, the fae. That was interesting. How they created a small shrine behind the place they were staying for the fae, to please the fae.
Oh.
And I thought, so why are they doing that? That never became. I think she did mention why at one point, but I thought, just get in the tunnels and find out what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, go and find me a goblin. Go and find me a body. Go and find me something.
But she did mention that it's a sign of appreciation and acknowledgement. Yes. You know, we acknowledge you, we respect you. We're not scared of you, and yeah, I had a weird experience actually. Because there was a few episodes that made me feel a bit creepy. You know, when you're a bit scared to turn around.
Really?
And it was when. I can't remember when it was. I think they did the spirit box again, and that did creep me out a bit.
Was that the one where she had the guy behind her, Connor behind her?
Yeah.
And they were communicating? I
think so.
He was using something, wasn't he? And she was using a thing, and they got hooked up. And they were getting a bit worried at that point.
But then that one, I think so. But then I was like, this one's so suggestive because they already got too much information in their heads. I think that one did freak me out a bit. There was one episode in particular, I'm just looking up the episode because the name was really significant as well. It was called Centre of Your Mind. Right, so this is season 2, episode 9.
That was with the ghost helmet, yeah.
Right.
The god helmet.
Right, so I was watching it and I kept seeing this thing catch the corner of my eye. And I saw it about 4 times, this thing catch my eye. Right, and I was in my room. My room's not very big. And then I heard a bang behind my mirror. And I ignored it.
Oh.
There was another bang behind the mirror. I ignored it. And then something touched my head.
Really?
And I actually said out loud, no, I'm not acknowledging you. I'm not letting you in. I don't want to be a part of this.
Oh, my God.
Oh, that is...
Just totally no.
Run.
No, get out of my room. I'm not acknowledging you. I'm not open to spirits. No.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
Really
I mean,
creepy.
there were a couple of episodes that made me think quite a bit about how people watching the program would feel. You know, psychologically, would they be affected by this program? You know, if I see a goblin or a small grey alien at the bottom of my garden, the first question is, would I tell anybody?
I'd hope you tell us now.
Yeah.
And I probably would tell you guys, but I wouldn't admit it to any family or anybody else. I'd keep that to myself.
Yeah, they'd lock you up.
Yeah. It's like, the guy's a nutcase. He's seeing things at the bottom of his garden. And I think that's a lot of the stigma that's attached to all of this stuff. It doesn't matter whether it's spirits, Bigfoot, ghosts, aliens, whatever. It doesn't matter. There's a stigma attached to all of it.
Oh,
and once you start talking about it, people think, okay, they're weird.
Yeah.
End of story.
Like the fairies and the fawn stuff and all this sort of mythical creatures. Like I just instantly think aliens.
Yeah.
Again, aliens. And it's sort of like people, regardless of what you believe, I think there's a like mutual understanding that you have to respect these beings and sort of leave them alone.
Yeah.
Don't tamper with them. And you start tampering with them, they start tampering with you back, and they're much more powerful than us. So,
yeah.
I think fairies really never came to the fore until them 2 girls, took the photographs. The Cottenham, is it? I can't remember.
Oh, years ago.
Yeah, the Cottenham fairies. Nobody had really thought about them or thought they were real. They just assumed they were made up for children's books. And then when that girl took the 2 photographs, or loads of photographs of 2 particular fairies, people believed it.
Yeah.
And that's when this fairy thing took off. You know, people started seeing fairies, people... the Green Man, of course, is associated with the fairies. He's the overlooker of the fairies, if you like. So it's... I think a lot of it is... If I suggested that there was, I don't know, a tree that comes to life at night and moves, then I can guarantee that if that was shown on a video, made up or whatever, that you would start getting reports of people seeing trees moving or saying that I went there yesterday and it's gone, the tree's gone and it's not there and it's this. I think that people like mysteries.
Of course
people
they do.
like things that are not normal. However, if they actually do see these strange sort of things, they just don't tell anybody because they're scared.
Yeah.
I don't
And
know
if
what
you
you
do,
guys
you're
think
sort
about
of
it.
like discredited.
Yeah, I mean you got to remember that the Newkirks, what's their name? Newkirk, isn't it?
Newarks, I think.
Yeah, Newkirk it is.
Oh.
The Newkirks run a museum, which is basically an occult come mysterious museum. That's what they do for a living. They're curators.
Yeah.
So they're involved in all this stuff anyway, but that comes back from their original ghost hunting, I think. So all this stuff to them, they can talk about it because that's what they do.
Yeah.
You're listening to Dr. Den Does on Black Fox Radio with your host, Dr. Den.
Well, they said in
Whereas-
season 2, they said this is our life now.
Yeah. Oh,
We
yeah.
didn't want it to be, but the amount of stuff, and because of season 1 and the response they got from it, a lot more people and independent investigators have been helping them out and saying, well, I've been going down this branch and I've looked down this branch, you know, Ingrid Cole or the underground cults in Kentucky and the, what else, goblins in the mines. A lot of people now bringing all that research together and sort of giving them a direction.
Yeah.
The
I think
second series, the group sort of fragment a bit and they all sort of choose a different path to
look into
that all feeds in together.
Yeah. I mean,
the one thing sorry, go on, Ben.
I was just going to say, as a group of researchers, they're brilliant.
Oh, they are. Definitely.
You know, they seem to be able to find things quite easily. And I can't quite work it out why.
Well, they call it synchronicities.
Synchronicity, yeah.
Synchronicities, which again, I don't discredit them as being synchronicities, but for me, I don't believe in coincidences.
Yeah.
I believe in the law of attraction. And the law of attraction is that you can have whatever you want if you think about it. So your thoughts essentially become things.
Yeah.
So that's why I say I don't believe in coincidences, because you've attracted it to you.
Yeah.
Because you've been thinking about it and you've been talking about it and you've been visualising it. So it's not weird when it comes up. It's not a coincidence. Oh, I was talking about that yesterday and now I'm seeing it.
I think the synchronicity they were talking about was the blue star balloon found at the end of a tree that stopped their path from where they were going in the car. And the blue star is, again, linked to Indrid Cole. And that guy, the old guy they went to see, I can't remember his name, he's an author, talking about the numbers and the code.
That was really weird. The numbers and the codes, I thought, were a bit like, okay, this is really something now.
Yeah. I mean, 31, 90, what was it, 31?
93.
93,
It's like a
they're too-
greeting with people who.
Yeah, in certain sects or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they went through, they had all these numbers, but when you added them all up, they all meant something to what they were doing.
Mm.
I mean, when they said to him, does the 31 have any significance to you? He went, well, yeah, I edited the book, so-and-so 31. Which was just like bizarre. But the ending, which I don't think we should really talk about just
I
yet.
don't remember it just yet,
Well, it just leaves... The ending basically says, you guys, you've just started on this journey. Go out and get it sorted.
Oh.
That's it.
You know, and...
It all sort of ties together quite nicely, and it's not. I think they realise, no, this isn't a coincidence. This is a message.
Yeah, there's something going on. They've been pointed in the right... Now, the New World Order keeps coming up. I don't know if you noticed that, Scarlett.
Yeah.
You know, you're being sent somewhere by the New World Order.
Oh,
That's what that author kept saying to him.
Oh.
You know, you're being led by the New World Order. So I think this is... If they do a third series, I think it's going to be a real eye-opener. I really do.
Yeah, that will blow people away.
Yeah, I really do. I think these are just like small tasters of what's to come. And I wouldn't be surprised if they come up with answers that have not been available before for a lot of stuff. I
think what's really interesting about the series is that, like, a lot of people do independent investigations, but they're sort of niche. So, you know, one person, I'm a UFO investigator, or I'm a ghost hunter. And this series opens up so many avenues of just interesting things to explore and research that. I've really enjoyed that, looking up different things. I've got 4 tabs open now of things just from this conversation I'm going to read more about.
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever you talk about when it comes to this Hellier thing. There's more to it. There's always more to look into.
That's it.
I just, it's like the 3-toed thing.
Yeah.
You know, the original email that Greg got came from that David, whatever his name was.
Yeah.
And it contained some photographs of 3 toes in the mud. And he said, these things are running all over my yard, scaring the kids, blah, 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 blah. And then somebody said that if you go to this cave, you'll find there's 3-toed markings on the walls and stuff like that.
Then they related it back to, they're Native American markings, so some
That's
sort of
right.
Native American bird.
Yeah. So
I mean, I know we've spoken about it before in like previous shows when we were talking about like the occult and witchcraft and wizardry. Like in a lot of cultures, it's widely accepted and normalised that there are spirits.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
I read this story the other day about this woman who was practicing Haitian voodoo magic.
Ooh.
And she wanted to summon this spirit. He's an African spirit. He's called Papa Legba.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And she was warned online, do not summon this spirit. He's not someone you mess around with. And she did, she carried on, and then she was found dead.
Oh.
Yeah.
For natural causes, or?
Well, apparently she drowned in the bathtub.
What?
But she was warned by members of the the Haitian and African community. These are real spirits. They need respect. They're not people you summon. They're not a joke. Yeah,
I mean, I'll be perfectly honest with you. As you all know, I'm the total skeptic. I don't believe in. Well, do I believe in UFOs? That's probably the one that I sort of align with more than anything else. But I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in spirits. I don't believe in goblins. I don't believe in the Yeti. In actual fact, There was an interesting program I'm watching on TV at the moment that's totally disproved Bigfoot and the Yeti. So we'll come to that maybe on another show. But yeah, so all these things that are going on are being disproved or proven, because now we got the technology to enable us to do that. And I think that's really interesting. I mean, this spirit box thing, even scientists are saying, well, yeah, it's possible. You know, it is possible that somebody somewhere is making those words jump out. You know, why?
Yeah.
You know, why?
Communicate.
You know, it's... And the Bigfoot thing I was talking about just now, that was all through DNA testing of hairs and stuff. So that was quite interesting. So all these things scientifically will become proven. Or
will they though?
disproved.
Because it's sort of like, how do you ensure that it's a controlled experiment
Well,
that's got no bias? Because as I said, this spirit box I'm sceptical of, because I think actually science has proven that the power of the mind is more suggestive, and
absolutely.
the subconscious is actually
mind over matter. I mean, my favourite mind over matter thing is the Russian woman who spins the pencil under the glass just by thinking about it.
Oh.
She moves matchsticks and stuff like that. She's not throwing chairs across the room, but she's doing small things, and it's just a concentration of her mind, and it's been proven that she's actually doing it.
That's
it's not
crazy.
Just there's no magic or tricks to it. It is her mind actually moving these things, and they've got her pinned up to a computer, and you can see all the sine waves and everything else, and they're going absolutely mad when she's doing it. So she can only do it for about 15, 20 seconds, and then she needs to rest for a day because it sucks so much energy out of her.
Yeah.
But
it's possible.
that's been proved. That's mind over matter. Now, I understand what Scarlett's saying about the spirit box, where somebody's thinking of words and they're making those words jump out purely through thought. There is that to it. Absolutely. Don't disagree with that. You know?
However, I'll be willing to give it a try.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, listen, you got to try everything once in life. We're only here for a very short time.
And I think it's good to go in being sceptical, like Dennis, and as I am a bit, because then you're less suggestive. Yeah. People that are really want to see a ghost will see a ghost.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they've projected it.
Yeah, I mean there are people that scare themselves to death, literally.
Yeah.
They get so scared, they scare themselves to death and they die from whatever's happening. But is it all in the mind? Is it there? Are they imagining it? Now, you know, my son said to me a little while back, when he was a bit younger, he said, "You're not scared of anything, are you, Dad?" And I said, "Well, no, not really, because there's nothing to be scared of." And I still believe that. However, while you're watching a program like Hellier, and all of a sudden you hear a knock on the window, you jump out of your chair.
Yeah,
of course you would.
Yeah, even if you don't believe it, you just jump out of your chair because your mind is so concentrated on that program or on that thing that's happening at that time. You just think, oh, you know, I've got to go. It's weird.
It was when they were in the woods for me. They were just in the woods with some torches, and it was that. It really freaked me out. It really freaked me out.
I get what you mean. Like, I get that when I'm watching like so-called like ghost encounters or whatnot. Some of them, like, some of them, like, okay, this is definitely fake, but you still get that really like sense of unease.
Yeah.
And it's like,
that one you sent us to have a look at, Matt, of that man who's walking around some sort of graveyard.
Yeah.
He had like an actual tear running down his face, and that I thought,
I know,
really, really.
What did you think of that, by the way?
It was interesting. I watched quite a few of his videos after that. It was interesting. there's probably a good explanation for it all if you sit down and think
probably
about
is,
it.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, as far as he's concerned, he's seen ghosts.
Made me quite sad. It looked like a human to me, and it made me quite sad about why there was an old woman sitting there when they were in the pitch black. You know, that's really...
And why she wouldn't talk to him. That was the other thing.
Just really, really strange. There's so much going on in the world.
Yeah. You know, was she real? The thing that I've been looking into last couple of weeks is something called the Hat Man.
The Hat Man, that rings a little bit of a bell.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Like new tab, the Hat Man.
Yeah. These are all things that, you know, we can look at and talk about at some point. But I think the Hat Man is part of what Scarlett's talking about as well.
He looks to me like he's part of the Men in Black.
Yes, that's what I first thought. Well, is he a Man in Black? But then I thought, why would he turn up in the kid's bedroom at 3 a.m.
and
come out of a cupboard and scare the life out of them? Yeah, I don't think it's a Man in Black. I think these are psychological things in people's minds.
Does look creepy, yeah. It's like a shadow person to me.
Yeah, it's a shadow person. As far as I'm concerned, it's a shadow person, except he's got a hat on. I don't know. All these things are linked. And going back to the program, Hellier, I think maybe 4 or 5 series in, we might start to get some real answers.
Yeah.
I think it's going to take him a long, long time to find them.
Yeah, but maybe not so, because they, fans of the show will be doing their own investigating as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And they'll be passing information over.
Yeah, and sort of finding links between things. This injured Cole fellow is really, really interesting. There's a lot of sightings of a strange man who's about 7 foot tall, has really big eyes and a really massive smile. Yeah, and that's what's made people sort of notice him. Yep. And these have happened all around like West Virginia County. And now, like through this show, it's sort of linked them together. Or maybe it's the same person.
Yeah.
But the one thing I will say about him, he's not evil. Every encounter people have had with him, he's very warm, welcoming. Maybe he is just here to learn about humans.
Yep.
Yeah.
Maybe there is, because he did mention something. I don't know if I've made this up about sort of war happening.
Yeah, go on.
Maybe I just made this up. Don't know if I got this from the show, but there's some sort of like cosmic war happening, or they're sort of refugees from war that's seeking peace on Earth.
Possibility.
Yeah, that makes sense. Why does that? Yeah, that kicks something off in my head as well.
Because he mentioned that sort of the reasons why he was here. He kept talking about the third. Not the third. Oh, I can't remember what it's called. It was sort of like it had to do with the 93 thing, and they're like a group of people.
Yeah, this is the planet, isn't it? Lanulus.
Right.
That's where he comes from, apparently.
Oh, okay. And it's actually a book, Visitors from Lanulus.
Yeah.
Oh, first ever heard of that.
Yeah.
He really is bizarre.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got him down as an alien.
Mm-hmm. Or that he's part of the Men in Black, so he's here. He's there to discredit alien sightings or pretend you didn't see what you saw.
Yeah, they think he might be connected with the Men in Black. You're right.
Yeah, so first sighting 1966.
Scary, isn't it?
It is.
But he was the guy that stopped the guys on the road during the Mothman prophecies as well.
Yeah.
Oh.
And said that he was from another planet, and because they'd seen a UFO in the middle of the road. He was first seen on October 16th, 1966. So that was that was the same year as the Mothman, I think. It's just,
It's funny because in those times as well, people weren't really influenced or, influenced by the internet or things that they'd seen.
Exactly.
They were quite limited, so those sightings I do find a lot more credible.
Yeah.
The older ones.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I wish I'd been out there more. Now it'd be a great time to spot UFOs because there's not many aeroplanes in the sky.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was driving from London and I saw this it was a really, really bright light, and I actually stopped on the hard shoulder and thought, what on earth is that? I need to know what that is. And I have this like app that shows you the sky and tells you what each star is and where the planets are.
Right. And
Turns out it was Venus.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
But I couldn't take my eyes off it.
Yeah. I mean, it's really weird. You know, I've always said if there's one thing I want to see before I shuttle off this mortal coil is a UFO. I really do. And then about, well, I suppose it would be 20 years ago, my partner at the time was driving through on the way to St Albans on a country road, and she said a disc, literally a silver disc, flew right in front of her and across the road and then disappeared into the sky.
Wow.
And I said, because she's a total disc, but she thinks that at the time she thought I was nuts because I was really into UFOs and investigating them and stuff. And I didn't find out about this thing until about 6 or 7 years later.
Right.
Oh.
It just came out in conversation. I said, you never told me. She said, well, yeah, I didn't want to because you're into that sort of thing.
Yeah. Oh, right.
And then when I questioned her, she sort of came out with, you know, it was definitely a silver disc. It was X amount of feet off. I mean, it was that prominent. It stuck in her mind, every single detail.
Wow.
And I said to her, were you scared? And she went, well, wouldn't you be if something flew across the road in front of you? And I thought, yeah, possibly.
I don't know if I'd be scared. I'd be like, take me.
Yeah. However, some of these alien abductions, you don't want to be taken.
Oh, some are pretty. What you hear, some are like pretty freaky.
So, I think the Hellier thing, it's a case of. I mean, there's so much to it. We'd have to do 15 sessions like that, 15 programs. We could do an hour on each individual program, and still not get into it all.
It's sort of a ... for now, isn't it? Like to be continued.
Absolutely.
We'll let them get on with their. Do they do updates on the website then? Or?
Yeah, they do.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah. So you know their website, yeah?
Hellier.
Yeah, they've got another website which is called weekinweird.com. weekinweird.com. Week in Weird, and they've got the Hellier stuff on there and what's going on. They also got other interesting stuff as well.
Yeah.
Which is cool. So I've been going through that. They got a thing about the dog man at the moment and all that sort of stuff. So yeah. So check them out,
Matt,
guys.
go and watch season 2. You'll watch it all in one go.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we'll do a recap.
Yeah, and the other thing is to look out for is hellier.tv.
Yeah.
That's where you'll find most of the stuff that's going on.
Oh, right,
they've also got things like downloads for you, which are it's basically some of the episodes. They're all up there for you to download.
Cool.
So you can actually watch all the episodes there. Yeah, it's cool. They've got a contact page, which I might try again. Say, speak to me, you buggers. We want you on the radio.
Yeah, invite them to England to do some proper paranormal investigating.
Yeah, and they've got a store, obviously, with loads of different things. The strange thing is, you know that little goblin thing?
Yeah.
They've got handcrafted goblins that are made, I believe, by... what's his name? Strand.
Oh.
He makes these little handmade clay goblins. And they're weird. I wouldn't want that sitting on my shelf.
Council of the Nine, that's it. I've just remembered it.
Where'd you get that from?
Council of the Nine is like some sort of... It was mentioned by Ingrid Cole and that the author they interviewed.
That's right, because they're
Council of the Nine.
Yeah, they're almost like the gods, aren't they?
Yeah. Very weird.
Yeah, bizarre.
So I'm going to look into that now. Council of the Nine.
Oh, God, there's so much stuff to look into. We're never going to get all this done.
Loads of stuff, yeah.
No.
We're never going to get it all done. I mean, we're going to have to do one every week for the rest of our lives, I think. Because there's so much stuff out there. So, with that in mind, have we got any ideas what we should be looking into next time?
I think you should look into Trump versus the Deep State.
You want to go for that one?
Very interesting.
Trump versus Deep State.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the QAnon.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just an interesting group that have their own conspiracies that are about what's going on.
Yep. And
I'll send you a
Trump's
few
keyword
videos.
at the moment as well. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds like a plan.
Have a look. I'll send you some videos.
Yeah. Do
Yeah,
that.
that'd be handy.
All right.
Brilliant. Okay, guys. Scarlett, Matt, thank you very, very much for your
Been a
input
pleasure.
today.
No worries.
I thoroughly
Been fun
enjoyed it.
as
I've
always.
missed our little chats.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, they're always good.
It's been good fun. And the quality today is so much better than the other day.
Yeah.
I don't know what you've
That's
done,
good.
Scarlett, but your quality's gone right up.
I've got headphones in.
Yeah. Strange, isn't it? Just,
Yeah.
yeah, because I had a guy write to me, said that he listened to the first 15 minutes and then couldn't listen to it anymore because it was driving him insane.
Oh,
However, I said to
shame.
him, it's not all the way through. It's only up to 23 minutes.
what?
And then a couple of hours later, he emailed me back, said, oh, it was a brilliant show. I really enjoyed it. So,
That's good, then.
yeah, I mean, listen, people are listening. That's the thing. So, all the listeners out there, I'd like to say thank you for listening. Like, share, subscribe, even though we haven't got a like, share, subscribe. Do all the things that you should be doing.
You do it anyway.
And hopefully we'll have an interesting Trump thing next week.
Yeah. Or Council of the Nine, because it looks like there's a lot.
That's another one. Yeah, I think personally I'm going to really investigate this Ingrid Cole guy over the next few months.
All right, maybe
And
we'll
see
look
what
into
I
the
can find
Council
out.
of... Okay, we'll do a show in a few months.
Yeah, with Cole, Ingrid Cole, yeah,
All right, then.
definitely. All right, guys, thanks again for joining me.
Okay, bye. See ya.
See you soon.
See you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Contact us now on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Just search for Dr. Den or email us at drdenblack@gmail.com.